The content presented in this program is for informational and educational purposes only. You should not construe any information as legal, tax, or financial advice. Any information presented should never be used without first assessing your own personal and financial situation or without consulting a financial, legal, or tax professional.
What I want to do is I want to give you some foundational stuff. We're not going to talk about stocks. We're not going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about foundational things, okay? I've got a client who's an ex-NFL player, and when we started working together, he had these really great ideas, ways that we were going to work with some other NFL players. And I said, before we start talking about all these different investments with these guys, let's talk about some basic financial stuff, okay? Foundational stuff, right? So with that said, I'll jump right in. You guys don't have to wait until the end to ask questions, okay? I like interaction. All right, I don't like to lecture without any interaction, all right? And if you have a really good question, really good question, and I'll determine if it's a good question or not, then I've got $2 bills in my pocket, and I'll pay you for your participation. How do we get this off the screen? Just dismiss all?
Do you see that?
Yeah.
You do an exit?
Yeah.
Hit the exit key.
Well, these are all past due, so. Shouldn't be a problem.
Hey, if you have a question, raise your hand and we'll.
Yeah. So, financial well-being, okay? That's what this is about today. What is financial well-being, right? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to most people? In general, it means you have control over your day-to-day, month-to-month finances, okay? You don't get to the end of a pay cycle and you've got like very little to a negative balance in the bank. Okay, you have the capacity to absorb a financial shock. This is a big one, okay? If you're too thin on your margins, okay, and something happens and you don't have the ability to deal with it, there's only one way to deal with it, and that's debt, okay? That's debt, all right? Being on track to meet your financial goals, whatever they are, and having financial freedom to make choices that allow you to enjoy your life. Okay, I tell my clients when we're building a relationship, my job is to figure out what your vision for your future is and help you get there. I don't care what it is. Let's just figure out what it is and what it's going to cost. Okay, there's a lot of people that are out there that are working that are making a lot of money, but they're not financially free. Right? They are not financially free. They have a lot of responsibilities financially. They have to continue to work in a job that they don't necessarily want to continue to work, missing time with their families. That is not financial freedom. That's people that make a lot of money. There's a difference. Okay? There's a difference. All right? So, here's the key. Okay? This is the key. These are the priorities for sustainable financial well-being in order of importance. Okay? In order of importance is really important to understand that. Okay? So, the number one priority for sustained financial health is you need to keep liquidity. You must have liquidity, period. Cash is king. You ever heard that? Yeah. Cash is king. Okay? You need to keep 3 to 6 months of non-discretionary expenses in cash at all times, earning as close to the rate of inflation as possible. Okay? As close to the rate of inflation as possible. What is inflation?
6%.
Yes, sir. What is it, though? That's great. Everybody doesn't know that. I think that might be worth $2. Yeah, it's 6%, but what is it? What is inflation? Explain it to me. What is it?
What is it, okay?
The increase of money in the economy.
The increase of cost of living. It costs more to live from one year to the next. If you rent, you know what I'm talking about. Okay? What does a carton of eggs cost right now? $8. What was it 3 years ago? That, my friends, is inflation. Okay? Right? When I bought my first car, I mean, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough. You know, I didn't pay more than, I think I paid less than $10,000. I don't even know if you can get a car for a new car.
New car average, I think it's 42. The whole car?
Yeah, the whole car.
For the whole car.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So inflation is constantly there. It's persistent. And it generally runs at around 3%. Right now it's elevated. Okay? But generally you can expect things to cost 3% more every year. Right? Certain things go up faster, like college tuition goes up 7%. Medical inflation is like 7%. Okay? But generally, inflation's around 3% right now. It's at 6. It was at 9. It's coming down. That's why interest rates have been going up. I won't get into that. Okay. Bottom line is you have to keep up with inflation, or you're losing money. So putting money on your mattress, right? You're getting nothing for that. It's good that you've got cash, but you're losing 3% a year. Do you understand? You're losing your money only buys 3% less stuff every year. And over time, that money just keeps getting eroded. So you have to get some yield on your cash. Okay? It's hard to get that if you're not really looking for places where you can get some high yield on your cash. Okay? And I'll talk about that a little bit. All right? Number one priority. What is non-discretionary expenses, by the way? The things you absolutely have to pay.
Shelter.
That's right.
Transportation.
Your gym membership is discretionary.
That's discretionary.
Okay? If it hits the fan, you can stop going to the gym. You don't want to, okay? But you can. You can cut that expense. You can go walk, okay? But your mortgage and your rent, right? Anything that affects your credit report, those are essentials. Food, utilities, okay? Have to pay them. All right? You have to pay them. So what you have to figure out is, what is that number for me? What is that number on a monthly basis, month in and month out? Is it 3,000? Is it 5,000? Is it 10,000? And you multiply that by 3 to 6 months. I say 3 to 6. 6 is ideal. But you don't want to discourage people, because some people don't have 1 month. So you set a goal of 3, and then you can go to 6. 6 is ideal, okay? Things happen, okay? The world stopped 3 years ago. The whole world just hit a tree, right? Locked down, don't come out of your house. Businesses crumbled. Unemployment shot up to 25% overnight. Okay? And the government stepped in. But you remember how long it took? Remember? And there were people in lines, right? And they weren't necessarily poor people. They just didn't have liquidity. Okay? They didn't have enough to get them through those couple of months until those checks started coming. This just happened. All right? Your tires go bad. Okay? You have to pay a hospital deductible. Right? All kinds of things happen. And if you don't have liquidity, okay, there's only one thing you can do. You have to borrow. What else are you going to do? Okay? You have to depend on others. So that makes your situation worse. That's their number one priority, even above you saving for your retirement. That's number 4. Okay? Liquidity is number 1. Number 2, you have to protect your income, right? You have to protect your income, right? What do I mean by that? If something disrupts your income that's health related, it's very, very, very disruptive to your life. Come on in, okay? Your whole plan is revolving around your income stream, your ability to earn income. If you're a business owner, if your business runs without you being there, congratulations, you're in good shape, okay? If you're working and you're trading time for dollars, if you stop working for whatever reason, it's going to really, really throw everything into a tailspin, okay? And so if you guys have access through your company where they have benefits, where they offer like disability insurance, you should take it, okay? You should take it, right? It sounds silly to be talking about this, but this is a big deal, okay? And people forget to think, they don't think about it. But I was on a plane one time going to Washington, D.C., and I met a lady. She sat next to me, and she was a retired fighter pilot from the Air Force. And she had an amazing story, but she was so young. And I was like, gosh, you were so young to be retired. Like, what happened? I'm nosy, right? So she tells me, oh, I didn't want to retire, but I got sick. I had a swelling in my brain and I almost died. So, I keep asking questions. Well, what made your brain swell up? She got bit by a tick. Yeah, she got bit by a tick, got encephalitis, I think it was called. Brain swelled, she almost died. She was out for a year. Think about that, right? How devastating that could be for you. You understand what I'm saying? And it's so random, okay? So you need to hedge against that. Protect your income. If you've got a family, I know there's going to be a series on life insurance later in the year. Life insurance is a big deal, okay? Right? Provide continuity for your family. But that's number 2, right? Specifically, though, that's disability insurance. Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question?
Yes. Before you go on with protecting your income.
Hold on just a second.
Earlier.
Here you go.
Huh? Oh. A few minutes ago, you mentioned about hiding your money in the mattresses. Can you speak on the current issues now with people losing their monies in the banks and not being able to get it back? Because some people, you mentioned it a while ago, we laughed about it, but people are considering hiding their money in the mattresses again.
I understand that, yeah. So that's a good question. And here's what you need to understand about that, okay? All of your deposits into banks are insured by the FDIC. I think that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, okay? Up to $250,000 per person, okay? So, if you're concerned about that, and you've got more than $250,000, you probably want to put it in.
It's multiple, right?
Yeah, you can put it in multiple banks. And each bank will be insured up to $250,000, and you won't lose, okay? Now, Silicon Valley Bank situation that you're probably thinking of, and some of these other banks, the situation was they had 90% of their people had deposits over $250,000. There's a lot of big deposits. So the concern was there was no insurance for a majority of the money, but the federal government stepped in and backstopped it, and everybody's good, okay? But that's a legitimate concern, right? It is. And the reality is, I don't want to get in, I'll get into the details of what happened at the end, so that you kind of understand what's creating it. It's kind of an interesting situation, what's created that situation. So ask me at the end, I'll tell you what's going on, but you're insured up to $250,000. You cannot lose that, okay? All right. So we're good with the first two. Third one, okay? Eliminate revolving debt. What is revolving debt?
Consumer debt.
Yeah. Okay. It is like the worst debt in the world. Okay? I'm serious. It will drown you. Okay? I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. You have to stay away from it. Okay? If you have it, you need to start eliminating it quickly. It is really, really bad debt. Okay? It really is. Nothing wrong with having a credit card. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that raises a question for me around the revolving debt.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't have a lot of revolving debt, but it's like when I'm being advised to kind of do things to kind of raise my credit score and things like that, they're telling me to get more credit card, do more things like that, which actually puts me in more debt. So it's a little confusing, like what type of debt is okay to have or should I have to be able to protect my cash and protect my income. I don't really know about that.
Okay. So there's nothing wrong with having a credit card. I have credit cards. But you pay it off every month. Don't let that debt don't do the minimum payment thing. That is a cycle that it'll drain you. Okay? I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about here. I brought an actual statement. Yes, ma'am?
No, I was going to add to, you got to be very disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, they do have perks, but you got to be very disciplined.
Yeah.
You might pay it off.
You got to pay it off. And if you want to get a card that you have to pay it off, like American Express, like you have to pay it off every 30 days. You don't really get to stretch it out, okay? But if you're going to have a card, and you have to kind of have a card, like to do things online, to buy airline tickets, to make reservations, hotels. Yeah, if you really only need like one or two cards, okay?
So what you're saying here is basically like eliminate access revolving debt?
No,
Oh,
I'm
wait.
just saying you can have credit cards, just don't have any balances on them.
Okay, that's what you mean. Okay.
Yeah,
Don't let it revolve.
yeah,
Debt on the credit card.
yeah, definitely. It's okay to have a credit card, just don't carry the debt on it, okay? Because honestly, if you're carrying too much debt on your credit card, it starts bringing down your credit score. Okay? People don't realize, like the amount of debt that you carry on your revolving lines, if it's over 30%, it'll pull your score down. And it pulls it down big time. Okay? It's like 30% of your score. 35% is payments, 30% is utilization. So between your payment history and how much you're using, it's like 65% of your score. It's a lot. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to say that what got me was not so much that my amount was so high, but the interest rate was a shocker for me. When I found out how much interest they was charging me at one card.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Control delete. Let's see.
So we're getting Brandon to come wake up this PC.
Yeah. So, does that make sense though?
Yeah.
But yeah, and the rates are very high.
And
It's insanely high.
they're moving now, right? Because
Yeah, because of interest
Fed's
rates.
moving.
Right. The Fed is increasing interest rates. You guys know why the Federal Reserve is increasing interest rates, right?
Slow down.
They're trying to slow things down. Right? They printed a lot of money to get us through COVID. Okay? They printed a lot, trillions. And they didn't put it in the banks like during the financial crisis. They put it in people's pockets. And people wanted stuff. And there was nobody to produce it because everybody's at home. Okay? And that creates inflationary pressure. And that is not healthy. So the Fed says, okay, we'll raise interest rates and slow the world down, slow our economy down. Okay, so let me get back on track here. So everybody good on the eliminate revolving debt? I'll show you an example of what I'm talking about. So save for retirement at a rate of 10%. People are like, well, how much do I save? 10%. Okay? 3%, it's a start. That's where I start people. Okay? If you're not saving anything, start at 3 and go up 1 every year until you're at 10. You won't even feel it. Okay? We do that with our 401k plans. We'll put everyone in at 3% because, they need to be in it. No one complains. Maybe 10% of the people will say, I don't want to be in it. Okay? And then we increase them at 1%. And they don't even know what's happening. And next thing you know, they got all this money in their 401k. You got to do 10%. That's the number. Okay? How much do I need to do? 10%. Okay? Whether that's you or you and your employer does 3, well, then you do 7. Your employer does 5, you do 5. If you do 10 and your employer does 5, now you're at 15. Right? You can get somewhere with that. It's hard to get anywhere with 3%. Okay? It's hard. Okay? If you make $100,000 a year and you do 3%, that's $3,000. Something. But you're not, it's going to, you do 10, 15, now you're getting somewhere. I'll show you the numbers. Okay? All right? In this order. Don't start here. Okay? Don't start here. If you haven't done these things. Because I know people that just go crazy here and have no cash. Okay? They are saving in that 401k, buddy. Okay? They don't have any cash.
Taking out 401k loans.
Something happens, guess where they're going? 401k.
I worked in HR for 20 years. I know right where
Yep.
they're going.
They're going right for that 401k. Get a loan. Okay? They get laid off. Well, I got this 401k and I have no other money. I got $100,000 in my 401k and no money, and I just got laid off. Gee, guess what I'm getting ready to do? Okay? Guess what I'm getting ready to do? Set myself back. Okay? And pay taxes on that money. Right? Or borrow it and pay interest on the money. Okay? It's backwards. It's important, but you got to do this first. Right? This is the order of operation. This is it. Okay? Cash is king. Number 1. Numero uno. Okay? All right. So, here's the issue. Okay? That emergency fund, it's not an easy thing to build if you don't have control of your finances. You understand? If your number is $4,000 a month in expenses, then you need like $15,000, $25,000, right? $15,000, $25,000, right? Almost a half a year of income. You understand what I'm saying? It's not easy. I'm not belittling it and saying this is a simple thing. What I'm saying is you got to do it. And in order to do it, you've got to have control of your cash flow. All right, so I'm going to spend a few moments talking about that, okay? But you want 3 to 6 months of expenses, okay? And you need to keep an account that pays decent amount of interest, okay? These are some of the ones I use for my personal. I'm not endorsing any of them. I am not endorsing any of them, okay? I'm just saying, I use these because they pay good interest. They're online. A lot of them are online, okay? All right, so here's the deal. You have to the reason I'm telling you that, guys, is because, some places you're not going to get a lot of interest on your money. Now, you keep deposits on the bank that, if you have a business relationship with a bank, yeah, keep some deposits in that bank, okay? Because you have the relationship there. But when it comes to personal savings for your liquidity, then you need to be getting what the highest possible interest rate is. And right now, that's like 4%. You can get 4% right now, 3.75, 4%, okay? That's better than 1/20th of 1%. And I know a lot of people that have accounts sitting in 1/20th of 1%. Okay? That's not helping you. Okay? So, how do we get there? We have to work through the cash flow. You have to get your cash flow under control so that you can afford to save that money. You have to create the margin. Okay? So, first thing you have to do is you have to assess your income. Okay? Then you've got to track your spending and your expenses. And you got to categorize them and then stay on track. Okay? Assess your income. This isn't that hard. Basically, you look at your annual salary and you divide it by 12. Okay? And you work off of the net number. Okay? If you make $60,000 a year, you're not bringing home $5,000 a month. Okay? Yeah, I know that's 60 divided by 12, but for those of you making 60,000, you know you're not bringing home $5,000 a month. Okay? You have to figure out what your net take home is. Okay? After taxes. All right? What is your take home after taxes? Right? If you're paid on a bi-weekly basis, you know, it's a little trickier because you have those months where you have like 3 checks, right? But in general, you have an idea, right? If you're paid on a bi-weekly basis, how much you're going to get every 2 weeks, okay? And you'll get 2 checks a month. And every now and then you'll get 3 checks, right? Isn't that how it works? Yep. So, and if you're bi-monthly, then it's easy to figure out, okay? But you have to figure out what your net number is. Don't base your budget off of dividing your income by 12. What's your net number? Okay? And then you need to go track your expenses. Okay? And it'll shock you. Online banking, you ever go through your online banking and you're like, oh my God, oh my God. Did I really spend that much on that? Right? Did I eat out that much? Oh, I remember buying that. Gosh. Okay? You need to do that over a couple of months so you can kind of see where you're spending your money. Okay? Now, this is the important piece. And this is where people kind of fall off the wagon a little bit. Okay? This is how it should be looked at. 50, 30, 20. Okay? Now, some 50, 30, 20 rules say you got your living, your wants, and your debt. Okay? I don't quite subscribe to that. Okay? I don't like to call it the wants, and I definitely don't like debt. Okay? So, I like the 50, 30, 20 split. Okay? I don't like that word, and I don't like the way that's categorized. I want this to be savings. Okay? So 50, I want that to be your fixed living expenses. Fixed expenses. Okay? Fixed expenses. What are your fixed expenses?
Like rent, mortgage.
Things that do not change. Okay? Car note is not going to change from month to month. Your mortgage is not going to change from month to month. Your student loans shouldn't change from month to month if you have them. Okay? There are certain bills that are just not going to change. They're fixed. Your rent is fixed. Okay? You have to keep that number under 50%. Or you're not going to have enough margin. Okay? You're going to run out of money. It's going to get tight. Okay? Because this is variable expenses. What is variable expenses? Things that change from month to month. Your utilities, your food, your eating out, your happy hours, your movies, your gas. Okay? You got to keep that at 30%. Okay? You got to keep that at 30%. And that'll allow you 20%, okay, to service debt if you've got debt, or save for your future. put away money for your emergency fund, right? Put away money for your emergency fund and save for retirement at the same time. 20% is good, okay? That is a good, if you have $4,000 a month take home, 20% is $800 a month to save. You've paid all your bills, okay? Bills are paid, right? You've paid off, you got your rent, you've got your utilities, your food, cell phone, everything is paid, and you still have $800 a month to save, okay? That's financial health. That's margin, okay? That's margin, right? And that allows you to save $800 a month. Okay, if you say, okay, you know what, I'm gonna focus on this emergency fund now, right? In 10 months, you've got $8,000. That's 2 months. Well, if you have $4,000 a month take home, your non-discretionary is maybe, I don't know, let's call it $2,500. Okay, so you would need, let's call it $15,000. You'd have 8 of it in 10 months. You understand what I'm saying? In 20 months, not even 2 years, you'd have it. Okay, you'd have it. It's going to take some time. Okay, and then once you have it, okay, then you can stop that and get more aggressive with your investing. Okay, then you get more aggressive with your investing, but don't start with the investing piece first. Okay, and I'm not saying don't save in your 401k. I'm saying prioritize that emergency fund. You can start in the 401k, but if you can't afford to do 10% because you're trying to get your emergency fund, well then so be it. Okay? So again, living expenses, costs that are fixed. Okay? Variable expenses, costs that are flexible. 20% everything else. But you know that debt will choke off that 20%. Okay? That debt could be up here. That debt could be in this variable if you have credit card debt, right? So that's the piece that I see people miss. Those living expenses are too high. Those fixed expenses are too high. Your mortgage is a whole paycheck. Your rent is a whole paycheck. You can't do that. Okay? I've been there. I used to live in New York metro area. My rent was a whole check. Okay? And I hadn't paid a car note, car insurance, food, utility. Whole check was gone. Poverty, struggling, right? It's impossible, right? So that's the piece I see people, their expenses, the fixed stuff is just too high. If you're bringing in $4,000 a month net, you can't have a $2,000 rent. Because now all you have is $2,000 left to do everything. You got a nice place. Right? I mean, I'm just saying, right? I see a lot of that. Yeah, seriously. You got to watch that number, man, right? Like if you bring in $4,000 a month net, okay, your mortgage and rent, car note, what else is fixed? Right? Anything that's fixed, everything's got to be in that one. Yeah, fixed. Insurance. Yeah, all that stuff. All of that stuff in the 50%. You understand? Right? Does that mean you need to cut back on where you live in or find a roommate? I don't know. But that is where people get caught. I see it all the time. Yeah, they get caught. I see them get caught there all the time. Okay? And that's where you got to be careful. Right? You got to be careful with your variable too. Okay? because you're going to have $1,200 a month to do your variable stuff. Okay, if you're making $4,000 a month, 30% of that's $1,200. Okay, $1,200 for variable expenses, food. Okay, eating out, things that go up and down, fuel. Right, that stuff moves. Okay, all right. So it just requires discipline. You understand? But these are the rules, okay? And that'll help you get there, okay? Here's an example of a budget. I probably can't see that greatly, but, this is someone that's bringing home $7,000 a month, okay? And they're spending $7,000 a month, okay? And they're putting very little, that's $300 a month is $3,600 a year. All right, this is somebody that's probably making like, $100 and something thousand a year. That's not 10% in your 401k. $300 a paycheck or a month. All right, that's not going to get you anywhere. All right, but they got too much stuff going on. Okay, that's hurting them. Right, you got to deal with this. Okay, eating out quite a bit. Okay, we just got to control this stuff. Okay, there's not a lot of margin here, but you see how quickly somebody making $100-something thousand can have no margin at all. I mean, none. You see that? That's not crazy. This isn't crazy, right? $1,800 more. $1,800 in mortgage or rent, right? That's not a big deal. That's not crazy. Home insurance and some electricity and cell phone. The cell phone is rough, right? Right? Cable, satellite. Somebody comes cut the grass. That's okay. Got a car note, right? Fuel. There's nothing crazy here. Groceries. They're not spending a lot on groceries. They're spending a lot hanging out though. Okay, but this is what's getting them. Okay. Right? So you can trim, right? You can trim. I mean, you still go out and eat out, right? You still go out and eat out, spend a little bit more at home, a little less eating out, okay? Give some money to a church, right? Cut down on the cable a little bit, but by getting rid of this, look what you're able to do, like now you're talking. And you're not burning you still got $400 left. We haven't even spent all the money. I didn't change anything in here. Except took the cable down $100. You see what I'm saying? It's just little things that make a big difference. And dealing with debt, right? Yeah. Okay? So again, right? Got to get to that number one. Okay? Then you got to protect your income. Okay? Then you got to deal with this revolving debt. Okay? You got to deal with this revolving debt. This is a MasterCard black card. This is a real statement. Okay? $22,000 balance. Okay? Total credit line is what? All right, things almost maxed out. You almost maxed them out. Right? You got $2,500 left. Right? Got a lot of points though. Right? Yeah, can't pay no bills, but I got those points.
I'm real nosy.
Right?
I want to see the transactions.
Okay?
See what the,
But listen. Yeah, look at the interest. This was
monthly, $325, $45.
That's-
Statement period.
that's a month.
Statement
Interest.
period. Yeah, statement period.
Right? That's $3,000 a year, $3,600, almost $4,000 a year on a $22,000 balance. Do the math. Right? Almost $4,000 in interest on a $22,000 balance. That's almost 25% in interest. Rough, man. Okay, and that's every year. And oh, just pay the minimum. Just pay the minimum. I bought $22,000 worth of stuff. All I got to pay is $500 a month.
And it's like,
Right? Okay. Look at this mess.
30 years.
Look at this. They made credit card companies start doing this after the financial crisis. They didn't want to do this. They did not want to have to put this on people's statements. But the government made them. They fought it hard too. But they lost. And now this is on every credit card statement. Go look at your credit card statement. It's on there. Okay? And they say, hey, you pay a minimum payment. 30 years. You'll be done. 30 years.
It's 53 rounded off, it's 53.
And you'll pay $52,000 in total payments on a $22,000 bill.
And that's if you stop spending, though.
And that's if you never spend another dime on the card.
They not, they already.
Stop spending, you still got $52,000.
But if you pay $250 more a month, you're out of there in 3 years.
And stop spending.
Okay? And stop spending, yep. Look at the difference.
I like how they put the savings on.
Yeah, I see.
$24,000
Yeah.
savings.
That is crazy.
That's not, okay, that's a luxury card. I'm surprised, like you said, American Express, where you have to pay it off each month. And that's a luxury card, they don't have to pay that.
That's a revolving credit card. American Express is a charge card. You have to pay it off every 30 days. Okay?
They got a credit card too.
They do. I'm just talking about their charge card specifically, though. They have a card where every 30 days, got to knock it out, and you don't have a choice. They might let you stretch it out a couple months, but for the most part, you got to pay it off. Okay? That is crazy. Okay? And a lot of people don't want me talking about this because they make a lot of money off people's credit cards. That is big, 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 big money. That's big money. Okay? I mean, someone from Visa is watching this right now like, oh, turn it off. Okay?
It would be worse now, right? Because that's 20. Am I reading that right?
Yeah,
That's 28.
yeah, interest rates are higher now.
The rates are higher.
Yeah. The interest rate moves with the interest rates in the economy.
But like you said, they're making a lot of money because if you file bankruptcy, credit cards is like one of the most file them in the total post.
Yeah.
Pay back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, that's a lot. And all you have to do is spend another $250. If you can spend $540, you can spend $800 and get rid of this. Do you understand? This is not healthy. Okay? That is not healthy. That will hold you back. Okay? That will hold you back. And let me show you something. Okay? They got it down. Okay? They knocked it out. Okay? They knocked it out. It's doable. Okay? 2 years. Yeah. Yeah.
They got at it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can do it. Okay? You can do it. All right? But here's the real deal. Okay? Here's the real deal. What's the real cost of that money? That $28,000. Okay? If you saved yourself 27 years of payments and $28,000, okay? And you took that $28,000 and invested it at 7 and got 7%, which is less than what the stock market gives you. That's being very conservative. You invest that $28,000, okay, for that 27 years, that you saved, that's really what that credit, that's really what that costs you. That's really what that debt costs you. You understand? That's what it really costs you. You're taking that 27 years you saved and took that $28,000 that you didn't have to pay in interest and instead got paid on that money instead of paying it to somebody else. That's the swing. Now that's you see it, you flip it. Okay? Instead of paying other people, pay yourself. That's a big difference. Okay? That's a big difference. If you take the $28,000 in interest plus what you would make on it over that same time period, it's like $200,000. Swing. Okay? It's a big deal for $250 more a month. Okay? That's what I'm saying. You have to turn this stuff around. Stay away from that revolving debt, man. Stay away from it. That's a big number. Okay? That's a big number. All right? So, if you have student loan debt, look, same thing. Right? If you have a $49,000 balance and there's people that have it, okay, that went to college, have balances on student loan, and you're paying $350 a month, maybe you'll be paying on that forever. You'll be paying on that $49,000 when you're retired. Okay? You know, that'll be like something you just like you can't, it's just a ball and chain. Just, oh Lord, I've been paying on this my whole life. But if you up that payment, all right, you're out of there in 5 years. That's what this calculation is saying. You can get out of this mess. You can get out. Take that 350, turn it to 900, and you're out of that thing in 5 years. But you got to have the margin to go from 350 to 900. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. You got to create that margin. Okay? That's the old credit card. That's what I was showing you before. Okay? Guys, this is real. This is the retirement piece. Okay? If you can start putting away money for your future, the numbers are staggering. Okay? I'm using a 30-year time horizon. Okay? I don't have to. I put a 20 in here too. Okay? Whatever your time horizon is. I can do a 10. I can do this with anything. N is the number of years. IRI is an internal rate of return. PV is the present value, like how much you have now. Payment is how much you're saving, and FV is how much it'll be worth. This is just nerdy financial guy stuff, okay? But you understand these numbers, don't you? If you can put away $500 a month for 30 years at 7%, that's $600,000. If you can put $1,000 a month away for 30 years, it's $1.2 million. You're a millionaire. Liquid. I'm not talking about the equity in your house and land. No, liquid millionaire. Cash. Okay? Seriously. This is real. These are real numbers. Okay? I see it every day. Every day. Regular people come in with accounts just like this. They are not CEOs and executives. They're just regular people. Airline stewardesses, right? I mean, just, it'll shock you, man. It'll shock you. The number of people that have this kind of money. And it isn't anything fancy. Okay? But the longer you wait, the shorter time horizon you have, which means you got to save more. Okay? So if you got 20 years till you retire, you got to save more to get that million. Or you got to make more on the money. But you got to invest the money to make the money. You're not going to get 7% in the mattress. Okay? You're not going to get 7% in CDs. You got to put your money, you got to take some risk. Okay? You got to put your money in the stock market or invest it in somewhere. You don't put it in the stock market, put it somewhere where you can get at least 7, 8% on your money. You should be getting 7 or 8% on your money. You can put your money in the stock market and not look at it and get like 8. Seriously. Even with last year, how the market went down 20%, previous 2 years it was up 20 and 30%. You're still up. You're still up. You're still up from COVID. Even after last year, you are still up from COVID. Okay? Market goes up, guys. Invest your money. This is real. But you got to have margin so you can. You understand? And that goes back, that's why I started back with the budgeting, right? You gotta do this thing in order. And number 1 priority is liquidity. Number 2, protect your income. Stay away from the revolving debt. You can have the cards, just don't keep the balance. Okay? And then you can get to this. Okay? And now you're building wealth. That's financial health. Okay? Now you're healthy. Right? Now you're healthy. Right? Does that make sense? All right. Questions for me?
Raise your hand and we'll give you the mic.
You might have touched on this, but with how the economy is looking itself, how do you, because before you would just have to accommodate the 3% of inflation. Now where inflation's up to 8, some places even 10%, how do you accommodate that with the inflation in everything else as well? Mm-hmm. Not just money, but also like rent, food, gas, everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's why they're trying to bring it down. Okay? And that's what I was saying earlier, guys, is the Federal Reserve controls interest rates. Okay? They control interest rates for the most part. And what they're trying to do is get that inflation down because it's hard for people to deal with it. I mean, what do you do? Other than cut back? That's all you can do. Okay? And that's not healthy for the economy. That's not healthy for people's businesses. That starts to become a problem. So what they're trying to do is pull a lot of this money back out. All that cheap money, they're pulling it out. They're trying to slow things down. So you're just going to have to, it's coming down, but the only thing you can do is wait it out and try to keep your expenses down. Okay? Because you only make so much money, right? So the only when things get tight, you either have to go make more money or you got to cut back on what you're spending. But that's really all you can do. Okay?
So when you're creating the 3 to 6 months of non-discretionary, you're doing the calculation off of like what it takes to survive doing that 3 to 6.
Yeah, the things like if it all hit the fan, what do you have to have?
Okay.
You have to pay your rent and your mortgage. You have to have the lights on. You have to eat. You have to be able to drive to work. Got to have your car insurance so you don't, I mean, you got to pay for your health insurance. You only walk around with no health insurance.
Okay.
Those are essentials.
The essentials.
Okay? You don't have to go to happy hour. You don't have to go out to eat, right? You don't have to go to the movies, right? Now, you got to get your hair done. I mean, you don't want, because you got to go to work and you don't want to,
I don't know, during COVID, my wife cut my hair, so we learned a lot of skills.
Like things that you absolutely have to have, you need to figure out what that number is. And you can look in your account and kind of go back over the last couple months and be like, yeah, I didn't need that, and see what it is. I mean, it's generally those things that I mentioned though.
Okay.
The essentials.
And then I think I saw on there that even once you hit that number, to still kind of feed your savings with an amount. I thought I saw on one of your slides. I think it's the one on emergency fund. I think was the one that.
Which one?
I think it was the emergency fund one, right there.
Right here, yeah.
Keep an account that fund your savings account regularly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. This is what I want you guys to understand. Okay. There's a point where you can have too much cash. You can have too much cash. Sure.
We're
Sure.
with that concept.
Let me tell you what I'm talking about. So, let's say you make $100,000 a year. No, let's say you make 120. Okay, for easy math, $10,000 a month. Net, $8,000 a month. Okay. Let's say your non-discretionary things you absolutely have to pay every single month is $5,000. Okay, $5,000 a month. Okay, so $5,000 a month. You're going to put $30,000 in savings to get your 6 months. Okay, 30 grand, but you don't stop there, and you keep going, and now you got 80,000, and you keep going, and now you got 150,000 in cash, and you make $120,000 a year, and you have $150,000 in cash, earning 4%. That's not good use of your money. That's too much cash. That cash should be earning. You need to take some of that and go invest it where you can have some significant returns. That's what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that this cash is a bad thing. I'm saying once you've hit your number, I mean, if you're making 120 and you need 30, and you get up to 40, 50, you need to stop and go take that money that you were putting in that and go put it in something that's going to grow at a higher rate of return, like stocks or real estate or something. You understand what I'm saying? You could take that $100,000 in excess and go buy a 4-unit apartment building and make way more return than that 4%. You understand what I'm saying? You got to invest. You have to invest. Okay? You can't just keep money in savings and cash. That's not going to get you anywhere. That is for emergencies. You can't be scared. You have to take risks. You cannot be scared to lose your money. Okay? You cannot. Yes, sir.
So I have a couple of questions for you.
Yeah.
This is a personal question here. How many people have more than 3 months of their living expenses in cash? Okay, but not everybody. Got it. So my question for you is this. For those people who are getting to that point, you mentioned one time that you were in New York, and did you say one paycheck went towards rent? And maybe I missed it. Did you talk about how you got out of that?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So yeah,
I moved south.
But there are some people who are probably
seriously.
watching
I
right
get it.
now
I
who are
get it.
struggling. So how did you get out
Yeah,
of
no,
that?
I get it. So here's the deal. I was making $30,000 a year in New York metro area, which is really, really a struggle. Okay? And at the time, I wasn't in this business. I didn't understand money. Okay? But if I did, I would have gotten a roommate. Okay? And we would have figured out a way to cut that stuff in half. Okay? I mean, there's no, either that or I got to go get another job, make some more money. But you got to cut the number down. Okay? Now, I ended up making more money, and then I moved south, and I've kind of earned my way right through a lot of that stuff. But, and again, I'm telling you guys this is a lot of personal experience. This isn't in books. This is the school of hard knocks. Been there, had credit card debt, had no emergency. When I first started my business, man, I remember I was coming down some stairs, and I slipped, and I fell down, and I just sat on the stairs, and I was like, Lord, please don't let me be hurt. Didn't have insurance. Been there. No disability. Been there, guys. No cash, no reserves, have to borrow. I haven't always been who I am today. Always been who?
Haven't always been balling, right?
I mean, I didn't say that, but I haven't always been. I haven't always had this understanding, and that's why I want to make sure. That's why I wanted to do this, because it's important to understand, and it's not being taught generally. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other thing I want you to speak to is this, because we've been in the industry and we know, right? We've seen both sides, but we also know that in your industry, you do not cater to people who do not have the ability to save or who have that margin
Right.
and who can invest.
Right.
So, but even if you can, if you do have that 3 months of living expenses saved up, the principle of budgeting, knowing where your money goes, it's not like you can go someplace and hire somebody to help you budget. You know, what advice would you give people, and also what actions would you hope that we take as we leave from here to really put in those foundational pillars of financial health?
Well, that's why I was going through the budget piece, right? I mean, you have to keep your expenses sectioned off like that. You have to keep the fixed expenses under 50%. That's the first, probably biggest piece. And you need to go look in your accounts and assess where your money's going. It will shock you. It shocked me when I did it. I was like, whoa. Okay.
What system do you use?
I don't use a system. I use that Excel spreadsheet. Okay. And I use online banking, and everything is on auto pay. And as long as my numbers are where they're supposed to be, I'm good. Okay. But everything I do is automated, so I don't have to think about it. But there's like Personal Capital, there's Mint, there's a lot of different places that will help you kind of see where your money's going. I think Capital, I don't know, I forgot who it was, but there's a lot of different companies where they'll help you kind of track where your money's going. But it doesn't really take that much sophistication. You really just have to know that you got to keep those fixed expenses under 50, keep your variable under 30, and then give yourself 10 to 20% of margin. Okay? And if that requires you cutting, then you're going to have to cut. But you have to have that discipline. And you're right. Okay? In the business that we're in, we're paid to work with higher net worth people. It's more profitable. So, it's hard to get, sometimes it's harder to get good financial advice if you don't have something to go in and say, can you manage this for me? Right? They're gonna be like, well, how am I gonna make money if you don't have any money? They're not, you understand what I'm saying? So there's a lot of reasons to do this, but on the budgeting piece, you really need to stick to this 50-30-20 rule so that you can get to that 3 to 6 months. Okay.
It's not sexy, but it's important, right?
Yeah, this kicks it all off right here, guys. Okay? That kicks it all off right there. That's what gives you the margin to do things, to reduce the debt, to save up the emergency fund, to invest for your future. This, you got to create this somehow, right? You got to create. And I mean, I'm so glad that you guys are receptive to this, because I remember I met someone when I was in Houston, and I was in a bar downstairs having a drink, and started talking to someone about what I do, and man, I mean, it almost turned into an argument. They were like, "Oh, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous," right? So, okay, I mean, but it's just, it just is what it is. You know, it was very disheartening. So, but this is it, right? And if you have to cut to get to that 50%, or if you have to cut those variables, if you have to cut down on the stuff that's variable for you every month, then that's what you have to do.
So what other questions do you have for Bryan? Because Bryan is a financial advisor, and he works with a lot of people who make different amounts of money, but all have the ability to save. Yeah. And they've identified their goals, and he's given them advice to help them achieve it. So you have access to him now. This is part of your connection. So what other questions do you have for him?
Thank you for all this really great information, first of all. So my question is highly personal, so sorry, y'all. I am currently in transition. Like I said, I've done human resources for the last 20 years. I was laid off last month. So I'm one of those zero income people on the back of this on the back of this survey right now. But I'm transitioning into real estate. I actually passed my exam yesterday.
Congratulations.
So thank you all. What kind of advice would you give to someone that's kind of like in that situation? Like, I'm used to putting in 10+% in my 401k and like being corporate. I've been corporate my whole career, and now I'm kind of moving into, I missed the entrepreneurship session, but I'm moving into this new space. So kind of what are some suggestions or advice you would give, specifically, I guess, more around like the retirement part of it, but really anything financial for someone in this position?
So you're going to be a real estate agent?
I am.
Okay. So, your money is going to come in chunks. And it's going to be not taxed, 1099 generally. And so it's what you have to do. The good news is you don't have input costs, okay? So you don't have to go out and spend money to make money so much, right? Generally speaking. So you're still going to have to live by these rules, okay? So I don't know, 5,000, 12,000, right? Whatever the number is, it's going to be different for you because of the way that it times out, okay? And you may not have a sale one month and have 4 the next month, and then 1 the next month, right? And so it's just very sporadic. But when you have that 4 month where you have, you make like 50 grand in a month, you still got to live by these rules. You understand? You need to figure out what your numbers are, okay? And okay, these are my numbers. This is my budget. Okay, where's my budget? This is this is the budget I'm going to live by. Okay, now the deal is I got to stick to this, even though some months that instead of being 7,000, that's 50,000, or it's 0. You got to manage that. It's different. Okay, it's different. I've been there. It's different, and so you don't. When you have that $50,000 month, you can't go crazy. You're gonna want to. You're gonna want to go. You're gonna want to go to Neiman Marcus. You're gonna want to take that trip to Jamaica. You're gonna want to do it. Okay, but you don't know when that next one is. You understand that next month you might only do 1. You might not do any. So until you have that reserve where you need it to be, you got to be really, really careful. And you really have to make sure you set aside additional money for your taxes.
Do you have a percentage you would suggest?
20.
20.
Take 20% of your commission and put it in, same thing, an online bank or whatever bank. Take that 20% and that's its own account. And then you have your emergency fund account, right? You're funding that just like, okay, so you have an emergency fund account and you have a tax account, right? And they don't mix. And because I'm telling you that tax, I've seen people get burned with businesses. Don't pay your tax. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add something to this. So 20%, when you think about somebody who's 1099, because I'm 1099, right, for a portion of my income, but you've got your double Social Security tax too.
Thank you.
Right? So I know we're not giving tax advice here because we're not tax professionals. But I know for me, I put 35% away because you got deductions and everything else like that. So the more you can put away, the better, as opposed to coming up with it. So it kind of varies. I really encourage you to have a tax professional look at your situation and work with them. We should all have a suite of professional advisors, so whether it's a financial advisor, a life insurance agent, tax professional, an attorney for our estate planning as well as business. And there's a logic to the Empower series. We started in January with visioning, and we created a vision board. So we should all have goals of where we want to be by December. So whether that is in better health, better relationships with people who are important in our lives, careers, entrepreneurship, or having a higher net worth, less debt, whatever that is, have a vision of where you want to be. And then in February, we talked about entrepreneurship, because one of the biggest ways of creating wealth is starting a business, even if you're working as a W-2, but you don't get it twisted. Whether you're an employee or you have your own business, whatever it is, you're always in business for yourself. You're writing your own paycheck. You're writing your paycheck. Don't ever think somebody else is doing that. And then we talked about debt. So one of the pillars, eliminating your debt. So in March, we talk about credit management. Now, all of these 3 workshops are available on the YouTube channel. So if you didn't see it, you can go back and look at it at the YouTube, at the Empower Series YouTube channel. And now we're talking about financial literacy in April. So there's a logic to the series. So you didn't really miss anything if you didn't see a previous workshop. We're there for you. And I just wanted to bring that up.
Sure.
I have a quick question. Can you speak on savings versus CDs? I purchased some, well, I guess not purchased, but I got some CDs a little over a year ago, and I was really surprised at how fast it was growing as opposed to my savings. Now, I don't have the $300,000 in the savings account, and I kept thinking, well, maybe I needed more in my savings, but can you speak on maybe the advantage, disadvantage of CDs versus the savings?
So CDs pay higher interest rates than savings, generally speaking. So there's something called liquidity premium, okay? And what is liquidity premium? Anyone want to take a crack at it? I'll give you $2 if you try. What is liquidity premium?
I think it's if I give you my money and it's tied up, then you got to pay me a premium for
Nailed it.
keeping my money.
Okay?
Oh, I like those jobs.
That's liquidity premium, okay? When you give up liquidity, when you give up access to your money, you should get paid more. Period. So the CD, you're giving up access. There's a penalty to get out of that CD before time's up, right? So you get paid more to put money in a CD than you do just put in.
Pay the penalty only if I'm getting out of it early.
Correct.
I set it up for like 24 months.
Right, so it's stuck in there for 24 months.
Yeah.
Right? So in exchange for you putting it in there for 24 months, they're going to pay you a higher interest rate. Okay? And you should be getting around 5%. Okay? So, yeah. Yeah, so that's it. So, but if it's an emergency, you can get to it. You just have to pay a penalty. And you have to kind of weigh that out. So it's okay to put it in a CD. Just understand there's a penalty to get out. Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah.
I have a question. I'm a small business owner. I have an S Corp. And speaking of taxes, I just recently completed my taxes. And I'm looking at it saying, hey, there's got to be something else here to reduce this tax hit. I do have a retirement account for my small business, a SEP IRA. I'm looking at a solo 401k IRA. Maybe if you can talk a little bit about that. I didn't realize I could have both. My understanding is I can have both to reduce the tax hit.
Yeah. So there's something called the 415 limit. And the 415 limit is kind of like the max that can go in. And I want to say, if you're over 50, I want to say it's somewhere around 60,000 that can go in the qualified plan. But there's solo 401k works. Let me ask you this. So have you ever heard of a cash balance plan? Cash balance pension? Are you older than most of your employees, would you say? Or
So in my company, I have one employee, one W-2 employee, that's me.
That's you.
A lot of 1099.
Okay. Then that may be something that you look at. Basically set up a pension for yourself. And so the older you are, the more aggressive you can put away money for yourself for a pension, because they're saying you got to catch up. And every dime that you put in is deductible. So you're putting money away for yourself, but you're also taking it out of your revenue, right? You're taking it out of your taxable income. So
What is it called?
it's called a cash balance plan, solo pension. Doctors use them a lot, right? Because the doctor's like the oldest, most senior person in the office, and then they'll have, younger staff. So they'll set up a pension plan, and since he's the oldest, most of the money is going to him, because everyone else is so young, they have more time. And so based on actuarial, they're saying you got to put most of it for yourself because you're the one going to be out of here first.
Yes. You said you were going to come back. My question earlier about the bank situation, Silicon.
Yes. Okay. So real quickly, so when you buy bonds, you guys know what bonds are? Bonds are a $1,000 loan to a company or a city, whatever. It's just $1,000 loan, okay? And if I buy a bond that's paying me 1%, which is what they were paying, a lot of them, because interest rates were low, then I'm getting 1% if I hold my bonds until they mature, okay? I'm getting paid 1% on my money. And so a lot of banks bought a lot of bonds. And when interest rates started going up, people could go out and get those same bonds now, but they're paying 4%, 5%. So you have a 1% bond, and everybody else is going out buying 4s and 5s, okay? What do you think is going to happen to the price of your bond if you try to sell it? Does anybody want your 1% bond? Nobody wants that bond, okay? You have to sell it at a discount to get rid of it. So those banks had bought a lot of bonds because they had a lot of cash and they needed to do something with it. So they bought bonds, and interest rates went up. And it would have been fine if they could have held those bonds until they matured. Okay? But people started coming in getting their money, getting nervous, so they had to start selling the bonds to give people their money and take huge losses. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Okay? And it just blew them up. Yeah, it just blew them up. See, you take losses when you have to sell bonds before they mature. That's the risk to bonds, and they got crushed. Yeah. Interest rates have never gone up this fast, like ever. Yeah, they have gone through the roof. So if you own bonds and you're trying to sell them before they mature, you're going to take a loss. And that's what's happening to the banks, the small banks, right? A lot of the smaller banks, that can't absorb that, right? And then so people started getting nervous because it was a smaller bank, so they started taking their money out of those banks and moving them to JP Morgan and Wells Fargo because they see them as what they call systemically important. Like, you're not going to let Chase go under. You're not going to let bank. They already bailed them out 13 years ago. You're not going to let them go under. They're too big. So people say, well, if I'm going to put my money in a bank, I'm going to put it in a bank where the government's going to definitely bail them out if something happens. So people started moving them to the big banks. So that's kind of what's been underlying all the small bank stuff, okay? But once people stopped coming in trying to take all their money, everything kind of, and then the government came in and created a lending facility that the banks can go to and borrow money, as opposed to having to sell their bonds. So it's cool, it's good. So they're still borrowing a lot of money because apparently people are still pulling money, but there's a mechanism there so they don't blow up.
It's interesting. Liquidity is a universal principle because when you were talking about you got to be liquid, it's the same thing applies to banks.
Cash is king.
To a certain level, though, because the whole purpose.
Is important to them.
But the whole purpose with banks, when you make a deposit, the banks don't have to keep that money all liquid. They use your deposits to make money, but also to keep the fear of people running to banks. FDIC insures bank balances to at least $250,000
per person.
But and it's per person. So there's some strategies around you having more than $250,000 at a bank and feeling somewhat secure by FDIC. But at the most case, does anybody here have more than $250,000 in liquidity in a bank right now?
I heard somebody did.
Somebody may, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I would say then you should have a strategy to mitigate your risk in the event that your bank fails. But most people do not. Right? Most people do not.
I think part of the issue with Silicon is like Roku had their money there.
And that's a business, right? And they had well well over that. So as we kind of, this is not the end, but we're kind of wrapping things up, the presentation portion. I do want to hear from you as to what are the actions that you would like us to take as a result of hearing your program and your presentation?
So you need to assess where you are, okay? You need to assess where you are on this list of priorities, okay? If you've already got the cash, great, okay? Make sure you're earning enough on it, okay? If you've got too much cash, okay, like you're way beyond this 6 months, right? I mean, that's okay, but start thinking about other things you can do, like dealing with this, okay? Dealing with that, right? So this is number one. If you're not here and you're tight on a month-to-month basis, then you would sit down and you figure out what you can cut so you can get the margin so you can save to get here. If you have to take your whole tax return and start that way, as opposed to blowing it, okay? I don't know what it is. You got to make it happen though. It's a scary thing, not having cash, guys. I'm sorry. I'll continue to say that and say that and say that and say that. Liquidity is so important, okay? All right, so that's number one, right? If you don't have a disability insurance policy, if it's offered at your job, you need to go get it, take it. When you have your open enrollment, take that insurance, okay? I'm telling you, it's a no-brainer. It was one of my biggest fears when I was a business owner, was like, something happening and I couldn't work. I needed to work for a while. Now I have a lot of residual income, but when I was building it, I was like, man, if something happens to me, I am in trouble. I am in trouble. And so you gotta protect your ability to earn income, okay? And it's not super expensive. It really isn't, right? The revolving debt piece, if you've got it, then you need to sit down and assess what it's going to take to get out. If you will pay a little bit more on that credit card than that minimum payment, it will go away so fast. It will blow your mind, okay? If your payment is $40 a month and you put 100 on it, it just be, it'll be gone so fast, okay? And if you're not saving for retirement, you need to do something, but don't do it, at the expense of these. These are first. If you're only doing 3%, but you don't have income protection, you've got revolving debt, stay at 3% and go fix this and fix this, okay? But this is the order of priority. Does that make sense?
And we'll tell you why, because it's usually a financial advisor that gets paid by that. Yeah. Because most financial advisors don't get paid by how much money you have in cash. And that's why I think it's very important for you to understand this. And so from what you're saying, here's what I take away from that. You should have a vision, and we should all have a vision of where we want to be by December with how much cash we have in the bank account. With whether do we have adequate protection around our income and our lives. Also, how much debt we have, how much less debt we would like to have by December. We should have a specific number. And then also, whatever we're doing towards saving for the future and retirement, we should have a goal as to where do we want to be by December when it comes to saving for retirement. And those should be not vague, wandering generalities, but specific numbers. And you have resources. You have the saving-related resources, the handout that I gave you. You also have the budget worksheets, whether you do it by hand. My daughter's an artist, and she doesn't like anything technology-wise, so she does it in a book by hand. Some people do the Excel worksheet. I used to use Microsoft Money. Now I use Quicken. But there's a ton of other personal software packages out there, whether it's mint.com or something that you pay for. I would say, would you trust a business keeping track of their finances the way you keep track of yours?
This was amazing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for sitting in. I appreciate you. This was fun, and I hope it was helpful. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for watching our Empower Series YouTube video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Remember to hit the subscribe button below, as well as the little button to be notified the next time we upload our video. Until then, stay connected with us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media flavor is. Inspire the world to thrive. See you soon.